Good afternoon, everyone. We are waiting. Our vice chair is parking. She was not able to get a space here, so she's parking across the street, and she'll be here in just a few minutes.
Instead of printing these off, just reading them.
Yeah. Well, and if you're connected to the Wi-Fi, then you can use the printer back there.
The passport.
I can see if I can find out.
That was the main thing about getting.
There should be outlets.
Oh, you gotta plug it in.
There's like outlets down there.
Good afternoon. The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of July 24th, 2024. My name is Tim Rainey. I'm chairman of the board. Mr. Jeffrey Penzis serves as secretary of the board. Mr. Penzis, may I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Bruce.
Present.
Mr. Campbell.
Present.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
Present.
And Chair Rainey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is the oldest appointed governmental body in Memphis and Shelby County. We were established in 1925. The board hears appeals from the administration of the zoning ordinance, requests for variances from the zoning ordinance, and other requests as articulated by local zoning laws adopted pursuant to the enabling legislation. The 8 members of the board are appointed, 4 by the mayor of Memphis and 4 by the mayor of Shelby County, with confirmation by the Memphis City Council or the Shelby County Board of Commissioners. We serve without remuneration. At this time, I'd like to swear in the staff. You may remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So move.
All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Did we just get crowd striked? We'll just keep going and we'll see what happens. Okay, okay, good. Mr. Secretary, if you have one this month, and then explain the procedure for today's meeting.
Yes, sir, Mr. For Secretary's report, there are no announcements this afternoon.
Okay.
The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda can be found on the front podium. For each case, the planner with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, those speakers in support will have a total of 5 minutes. Then those speakers in opposition will have a total of 10 minutes. And then finally, the applicant will have 2 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the board. The chairman may provide additional time provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the board will be sworn in by the chairman. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD staff member at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicants since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the board will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. If the applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing, or if a board member wishes to hear additional testimony from any party, a 2/3 vote is required to reopen the public hearing pursuant to the board's rules of procedure. Please note that once the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and opposition will be allowed to provide additional testimony and/or rebuttal. All motions by this board will be made in the affirmative. The private acts governing the board require the affirmative vote of at least 5 members to approve an application, regardless of the number of board members present. The board may also vote to hold an application for a period of not to exceed 3 months with the consent of the applicant or 1 month without the consent of the applicant. All section numbers that we refer to come from the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, or the UDC, which was adopted by the Memphis City Council and Shelby County Board of Commissioners in August of 2010 and became effective on January 1st, 2011. I will introduce the entire UDC and make it part of today's record, thus dispensing with the reading of individual sections. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases before us today under the provisions of Chapter 9.22 of the UDC. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled as required by the UDC.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the board will establish its consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience, staff, or board member objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should make their objection known by a show of hands when the secretary reads that case. Once the consent agenda is established, the board will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole, will not hold individual public hearings on those cases. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda are eligible to be placed on consent today?
Item number 1, BOA 2024-39 at 9610 Osborne Road as a hold for 1 month. Item number 2, BOA 2024-40 at 587 Houston Street as a hold for 1 month. Item number 4, BOA 4-61 at 1052 South Lauderdale Street as approval. Item number 6, BOA 2024-64 at 1640 Peabody Avenue as approval with. Item number 7, BOA 2024-66 at 1656 Arkansas Street as approval with conditions. Item number 8, BOA 2024-67 at 4209 Reed Avenue as approval with conditions. Item number 9, BOA 2024-68 at 1971 Jackson Avenue as approval with conditions. And finally, item number 11, BOA 2024-70 at 1415 Breedlove Street as a hold for 1 month.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary, which is item numbers 1 and 2 as a hold, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9, approval with conditions, and 11 as a hold.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. I want to remind you before voting on the consent agenda, each board confirms he or she has read the statute with those conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Sullivan.
Yes, I find that the standards of UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. So if you're here for those cases, 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11, you've either been approved with the conditions or held as requested. So you can go ahead and take off if you'd like. Feel free to stick around, I guess. All right, and so as they're exiting, Mr. Secretary, could you call our first case we're going to hear today?
Item number 3, BOA 2024-42 at 1497 and 1505 Titus Road.
Okay, is the applicant present? That the applicant? Okay. If you'll go ahead and come to the front, is there any opposition to today's case? All right, if staff could give us a staff report real quick. Yeah, you can go ahead and have a seat, and the staff's going to speak first. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we are waiting for the computer to reboot. It looks like we're getting some progress here, so
Okay.
maybe we wait just a few minutes and see if we can get it back
Okay,
up.
yeah.
And if not, we can improvise. You know, we've had to.
Okay, we'll wait to see if we can get the screens going for everybody. I think like large corporations use CrowdStrike. It's very popular, but we just use McAfee. It works.
I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the presentation.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Chloe Christian. I am a staff planner with DPD, and I'll be presenting this case number BOA 2024-0042. The location is at 1497 Titus Road and 1505 Titus Road, and the owner and applicant, Sharon Johnson, is here with us today. There are a few variances that are being requested for this. And we've divided them based on property. So for 1497 Titus Road, the request is a variance from subsection 3.6.1A to allow a side setback encroachment for the principal structure, and paragraph 2.7.2A to allow setback encroachments for 2 accessory structures. For 1505 Titus Road, the requests are variance from paragraph 2.7.2A1 to allow encroachments for a pool deck, and request number 4, paragraph 2.7.2C to allow setback encroachments, to allow a cumulative number of accessory structures that exceed 75% of the total square footage of the principal structure. The existing zoning for the subject property is residential single family 6. And 89 public notices were mailed for this on April 25th. The land use for the subject property is single family residential. One moment, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so here are some site photos of the subject property. These two photos show pictures of 1497 Titus Road from Titus Road. These images were from August 2022. Here are site photos of 1505 Titus, and then the picture on the right, you can see both subject properties. Here is the provided survey of 1497 Titus Road. The two sheds are encroaching in the east side of the property, and then also note the encroachment on the side setback to the south. Here's the provided survey for 1505 Titus. And here are the provided floor plans for 1497 Titus. Note that there are, I believe, 8 bedrooms, and each bedroom has its own bathroom. So in conclusion, there are multiple open enforcement cases for both zoning and building code violations at both properties. Record ENF 2022-174 shows a long series of environmental court dates in which the judge required an engineer's letter stating what it would take to repair the structure. And the first engineer's letter noted that the structure was too dangerous to occupy, so a do not occupy and dangerous building notice were posted on the premises. And this letter is on pages 27 through 45 of the staff report and also includes photos. The letter states that the height of the original structure at 1497 Titus Road was increased and a second floor was added on top of the pre-existing structure. There were structural foundation errors, improperly constructed ceilings and floors, as well as rotted floor joists that were considered to be inadequate to support loads. The engineer determined that the rear balcony in the addition would need to be demolished as it was framed too high and would not be possible to lower. Enforcement case ENF 2021-00135 is for 1505 Titus Road, and it is for conducting business in a residential area with unpermitted advertising signs and banners. And this case has been in effect since January of 2021, and the inspection notes mention other code violations, including building a brick fence without a proper permit, and the court dates as well without a final decision made. In December of 2023, the zoning inspector mentioned the existing front parking pad should be removed, and the most recent status of this enforcement case is a pre-court investigation which is scheduled for July 22nd. Numerous sources, including letters and phone calls from neighbors in the area, as well as internet searches, will bring up evidence of large house parties that also take place on this site. With the address 1497 Road being advertised as a pool party venue with an entry fee and cash prizes awarded. And there's more analysis of this on pages 46 and 49, including photos of the social media advertisements. And I received numerous calls and emails from neighbors that mentioned that these parties are a nuisance to the area, and many are concerned for their safety as well as the safety of the attendance at the party. The high volume of these guests at the parties include folks that park along Titus Road and Dunn Road and block off the street parking for neighbors and potential access for emergency vehicles. In addition to these enforcement cases and neighborhood complaints, there are also no records of approved and completed building permits for these additions, nor the accessory structures on the lots. The applicant has applied at least twice for building permits for the addition in July and August. However, both of those permits were withdrawn due to over 6 months of inactivity from the applicant, meaning that they were never issued. Therefore, the proper building permits, such as residential accessory or residential addition permits, must be properly filed, issued, and finalized for both properties before any construction is allowed. As far as the two encroaching accessory sheds are concerned, staff recommends that each shed be relocated within the required side setback of 5 feet per the regulations of the UDC. The side setback encroachment at 1497 Titus may be allowed to remain, as the original home built in 1951 was also encroaching. However, the addition that has been deemed structurally unsound, the proper adjustments shall be made per the engineer's letter and staff recommendations to reach compliance with the UDC and building codes. The conditions as proposed are necessary to preserve the character of the area and protect property in the rear vicinity, and the granting of these variances as recommended and conditioned will not cause substantial detriment to the public good, nor will it substantially impair the intent and purpose of an adopted plan or the UDC, nor will it be injurious to the neighborhood and the general welfare, and it will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the UDC. So for staff recommendation, staff recommends approval of requests 1, 3, and 4 with conditions and rejection of request 2. So the conditions for 1497 Road are: A, the principal structure shall have no greater than a maximum number of 4 bedrooms, and the maximum number of bathrooms shall be no more than 2.5. Streetscape landscaping must be in compliance with the S14 streetscape plate. All applicable building permits shall be properly filed with the Division of Planning and Development and properly issued prior to any and all work on the property. The principal structure shall be no greater than 2 stories in height. The principal structure shall have no greater than a maximum ground floor area of 1,900 square feet and a maximum second floor area of 950 square feet. Short-term rental of the property is prohibited. Any rental of the property must be on a minimum 1-month basis. A revised site plan, landscape plan, floor plans, and elevations shall be submitted for administrative review and approval by DPD. The concrete parking pad in the front yard shall be removed with the exception of the existing driveway that terminates at the front facade of the principal structure, which may remain at no greater than 12 feet in width. And any change or deviation from the site plan upon the determination of the zoning administrator shall be submitted to the Board of Adjustment for review and approval, or administrative review and approval by DPD. And the conditions for 1505 are essentially all the same except for condition 2H, which states that the concrete parking pad in the front yard shall be removed with the exception of the existing driveway that terminates at the carport, which may remain at no greater than 12 feet in width. And that concludes my presentation, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Can you put up the floor plan for 1497 Titus Road? My question is, and you, if you don't know the answer of it, it's okay. We can get it, I guess, from the applicant. But I'm just wondering, what part of that floor plan is the original structure and what part is the addition that is to be torn off?
I'm honestly not sure about that.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll ask the applicant. Thank you.
Any other questions?
You did state that there are some cases in environmental court on this. What were the, do you know the particular citations that were given?
Yes, so I know one of the cases is ENF 2021-00135. The initial finding was that business is being conducted in a residential area with unpermitted advertising signs and banners. And I'm unsure what the other one is right now.
What did you say the recommendation was? I'm sorry, I missed it.
The staff recommendation?
No, by environmental court.
There's been no decision made on that
Okay,
one.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff before we hear from the applicant? Okay, if the applicant will come forward. Yes, ma'am. If you'll give your name and address for the record.
Sharon Johnson, 1497 Titus and 1505 Titus.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and share with us.
My name is Sharon Johnson. I am the owner of 1497 Titus and 1505 Titus. And you want me to start at the beginning and let you know?
Yeah, just, you could say, I agree with staff, I disagree with it. Tell us your thoughts on what staff has recommended.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do disagree. I disagree with everything they had wrong. Just start at the beginning here. Okay. I purchased.
He's working on it too, so.
Okay. I purchased 1497 Titus as a single mother in 1998. And at that time, I've been living there for 26 years. And I purchased 1505 Titus from the owners there because the families coincided and, we became friends and everything with the late Miss Mary Ann that was living there. And she decided to sell it to me in the area. And that's how I purchased that about 10, 12 years ago, something like that. But I decided it was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath at the time. But I did pull permits, but me not being knowledgeable of how the permits went at that time, I hired people that didn't pull permits, but I didn't know about pulling the permits at the time because it was in the 90s. So I didn't know about it like I do now, knowledgeable. So upon that, it went on. And code enforcement used to come out in the 1999, 2000, and was letting me know about the grass and all of that because I had growing children, single mother of 3, and growing children, and we used to park our cars on the grass. And so he said you have to have concrete or gravel, so that's when I decided to get the concrete on there. So the concrete been there for about 20, 25 years, been a long time. So as it went on and on, they never said anything about it till now. But back to the, matter at hand, when I had people coming there doing that, getting money from me, I was unknowledgeable. But back to what really started all of this, my home burned down due to an electrical fire. I wasn't there. I was sickly. I was in the hospital, and my oldest son was there, and it was in 2019. The house burned down, but the whole house didn't burn down, just the inside of it, downstairs, kitchen and everything. So that was a terrible loss. So I started to rebuild, and my brother recommended someone that didn't pull a permit, but I didn't know. So as he would start building, he built what he built now because that's what they do, I guess, where they're from or whatever. But in the United States, they don't allow that. But I didn't find out. COVID went on, 2020, 2021. My sickness went on, and he kept building. In 2022, code enforcement started coming by, checking, because I did pull a homeowner's permit. I pulled a homeowner's permit to rebuild, because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. But I didn't know nothing about the contractor's building. So as he built all of that, they stopped order on it. They started coming and they said, well, you built this big old thing and he didn't build it right. And then they brought it to my attention. And as I started going to court for it, that's when everything started happening and everything like that. And then I'm throwing everything in so everybody can kind of catch up. The pool parties started in 2013 when I had got the in-ground pool did. My grandmother, God rest her soul, she co-signed for me to get a pool. I had the pool parties, and it was mainly my children as they was going up, had the friends over. And when you have loud music, the neighbors are called if you have loud music. The police obviously going to come out, but it was nobody getting hurt or anything due to that, but they are allowed to come out. So that's what that was about that. But it was just one neighbor there that really just was kind of upset about me buying that house. I think that's when it all started. 1505 was the root of everything. Before that, I bought that home from this lady, that this one neighbor really liked this lady, and he really didn't take too kind to my kind of people, as I say, but she sold me that house because we loved each other, and he didn't like that. And when she sold me that house, he just started doing everything to me, you know, just causing a lot of problems, and it went on from there. It went on from there, so that's how it was with that. And that's how it was with that.
Which house do you live in?
The 1497 Titus.
1497.
But I don't live there now because when the engineer wrote the letter, because the guy, he said it was unsafe, so I had to go out and rent a home. So I have to pay money to rent. So one of my sons helped me out.
It's all right. You can take a second.
They put us out. They put us. They put us out. They put us out on the street. They put us out on the street. So we had to go rent a house, and we was just out on the street. So my son, he's a truck driver, and he hit. Code enforcement put us out of the house that was my first house. They put us out of the house, and when they put us out of the house, I had to rent a house. And I'm disabled, so my son, he's a truck driver. So that's why the truck be parked out there. He checks on the house because we can't live there. And my son checks the house, but my younger two adult sons, they come back all the time to check on the house and make sure that the area done got so bad. That's why I built the block fence around the house. It used to be a wood fence, but we built the block fence around the house because a guy had got killed on the next street, and the young boys that killed the man ran through my yard, and it was on the news, and he threatened to kill me because I turned the video over to the police, and that's why I built the block fence, so that they won't be able to run through there and people won't be able to jump the fence, and the kids will be safe in the area so they won't get in the pool. Because that's why I built the fence, so that it be safety for the children. Because you know how young kids like to jump the fence and they go to people's homes when they're not there, and by their house not being lived in, those kids can get in that pool and they can drown and die. And I don't want that, because I can't have that on my conscience. So that's why I built the block fence, so they won't be able to do that. So nobody lose no loved one. But code enforcement put us out the house, me and my children and my grandbaby. So we had to go rent a house, and I'm on disability, but my son, he helps me out. He helps me out in my rental property. So that's what it is. So I'm just trying to get this settled.
Okay.
I'm just trying.
What's going on with 1505? Is there
And
somebody living there?
1505, I haven't even did anything to 1505. I haven't had no structure or anything done.
But I mean, like, who's living there?
Who's living there? My brother, my disabled brother. He's
Okay.
supposed to be. My disabled brother and my disabled mom was living there, but my mom passed 6 years ago. She passed 6 years ago, so my brother is living there. He's living at that one.
And then how many people were living at 1497?
It was 6. It was 6 people and, it was, 7 grandkids. I got 13.
So 13 total.
No,
Right.
yeah, it was 13 there, but I
Yeah.
got more.
Right, yeah,
But
I just mean at the house,
right,
yeah.
at the time, right.
And how many bedrooms is it?
It's 7. It's 7 downstairs, 7 or 8 downstairs. I think it's 7. It's 7.
Okay, and then on this picture, just so we can figure out what's going on, where's the front of the house? Like, is it on the bottom of the page?
It's
left?
on the bottom.
It's
And
on the
most of all she had asked the original. I know I heard you ask the original. Original is everything on the bottom. And then that's why I was trying to explain to them. The low bearing walls is still there. The whole house didn't burn down. It was just the inside and the middle part burned down. And so what he had to do was when they came and demoed it, they demoed it all in the front. And the bedrooms was big size bedrooms. And what I did to the bedrooms, I had 3 big bedrooms there to begin with. I just broke them in half.
Right.
And to accommodate all of us when the family got bigger, when the kids had kids, that's how the bedrooms came to be so many bedrooms. And then COVID was going on at the time. And when I was getting sick, I said, well, I'm gonna give everybody their own bathroom because I didn't want the children sharing bathrooms. They didn't want to do it anyway. Everybody was being picky about being picky. They didn't want to go behind nobody. It was real chaotic at that time. So it was in 20 and 21. That's when the COVID was real bad. So that's the reason why the bathrooms is there. They wanted to ask, why did you get the bathroom? Did you have an intention of making it like a rooming house or Airbnb? Never. I never have a rooming house as long as I got a big family like I got. And I kept telling them that, but they wouldn't believe me though. They wouldn't believe me. They was listening to the neighbor across the street like he knew my family. He knew nothing about us, but he was just saying a lot of things and telling them all kinds of lies that he did not know nothing about it. Because he said that I lived at 1505 and I never spent a day at 1505. I just owned the house. I never lived there in my life. I lived at 1497.
Okay.
That's the house I lived at.
Are there any other questions for the applicant?
Ms. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
In the original at 1497, did those same family members, did they live there as well? Or are more coming back once you?
Yeah, once I get everything together, they want to come back. They want to come back. Yeah, they want to come back once I get it together.
Sorry.
Yeah, they want to come back because they want to help me because I'm getting my old age and I'm real sickly. So they do want to come back to help.
And so the 1505, that's going to be, is that renovated for the brother and then a rental?
Yeah, my brother, he's still there. He's disabled. Yeah, him and my aunt. My aunt lived there too. She's disabled too.
Are they paying rent or you're just allowing them to live there?
They live there, but they give me at least $500 a month out of their rent to pay for the lights and everything and to provide food and everything for them.
Do you know how big the ground floor is right now of 1497? Like how many square feet all that is?
It's I think he said it's like 3,000 and 3,011 or something like that.
And that's just the bottom floor, not
Right.
the top.
And
Okay.
see, the bottom is the original. That's the original. The only thing we did was split it up. It's the same width and everything, and they thought it was new, but it's not. We just split it up.
So that-
Just split it up.
So that double height space.
That's right. We made it spacious.
You made a single height floor, double
Exactly.
height, but
And the only thing I did was I was gonna add an upstairs to it, but they said I couldn't do that. So I said that I'm in court now to take all of it down. They want to demo the upstairs because they don't want an upstairs up there. And I just want space to just have space for the kids' toys and stuff like that. So I just was gonna make attic space since they don't want me to have any rooms or anything upstairs.
So, Ms. Johnson, you said, I thought you said, so you said there is no upstairs? Or
No,
there
it's
is-
empty. It's empty
it's
because they
em-
stopped
oh,
working.
So there is an upstairs, it's just not being used?
Right,
It's-
right,
okay.
no.
I got you.
Right. My intention was to do it upstairs, but they said that I can't have it. So my intention were to do it upstairs because I was going to try to accommodate to make room for the family, but they said I can't do it.
So you started having the upstairs built?
Yes,
Right,
yes,
okay,
yes, yes,
okay.
yes, sir. But I decided not to even do it and just put just attic space up there, just for storage space and stuff like that for the family members and the babies and stuff, because I got a new grandbaby on the way too. So that'd be 14, just, because those 6 kids having babies.
Okay. And let me ask this, so the staff is asking that the sheds in your backyard be moved so that, moved inside of the setback line. Is that a problem? Do you have a problem moving those sheds?
No, sir. It's
problem.
one really nice guy. He live on the next street, and he the first one that moved that shed for me because it was so hard to move it from in front of the house. Because, see, the shed was built like 8 years ago with Inspector Brewer, and I built it for $14.97 in the front, but he told me that there's no shed in the front, so I had to remove it from the front, and I put it to the middle in between both of those houses. And when it was in between both of those houses, it was there for 8 years, and then Inspector Brewer had died and everything, so I guess they didn't put it down that I had put it right there, but as everything came up, everything just piling up on me at one time. I mean, everything just started piling all up on me all of a sudden. And then they said I had to move it. So he moved it for me, and he put it in the back of 1505. And now they said, I don't know.
Okay, but if you have to move them, you don't mind doing that. So,
I don't mind.
so have you? I assume you've seen the conditions the staff is putting on.
Yes, sir.
Is there which ones of them in particular do you have an issue with? If you can answer that.
I wanted to see if I can, what type of variance would I have to do to at least to allow the concrete, because I don't want grass, because I know that my adult children have vehicles, and we have more than 5 vehicles. And the driveway, if I have to bust up all that concrete, it's gonna really look real bad. And that's a lot of work.
You're not typically supposed to park in a front yard. You can park
Right,
on the street,
right,
you can park
right.
on the driveway.
Right.
You're not, we can't just pave the whole yard and make it a driveway.
So you want me to just,
They would have to park on the street.
okay, you want me
Yeah.
to just.
I mean,
make
that
it-
would be what code would tell you to do. I mean,
Right.
you're asking for a variance to that, so I understand
Right.
that. But typically, if somebody has 7 cars, they got to figure out how to put 7 cars on their driveway and on the street or in the backyard or whatever. We just can't pave the entire driveway. I mean, we can't pave it all.
Okay, so I can take some of that concrete away if that's a
Yeah.
condition. I just get them to bust it up and just get grass right there.
Is the major issue
I would do
the
that.
setback? I would imagine that's the biggest thing, is the encroachment on the setback, right?
Well, the setback on the side, that's like the existing house always was like that.
So it was always
Yeah,
encroaching?
I don't think staff has any problem with the setback.
Okay, that's what I was trying to.
I think the problems that have come up have been the he said, she said about this is a house where they're having parties and, there's the paid parties that were going on where people were
Yes, sir.
doing,
No pay parties. I don't do advertising. My son is,
So
well,
you mean,
he
so
raps. My
that
nephew-
didn't happen or?
No. They had parties. I don't get paid for parties. And no one can tell you that. I never got paid for party. I don't do that. Everybody loved me there. I pray for those kids when they come and do their my nephew, he raps. My nephew raps, and a lot of rappers, known rappers, have came to my house, and they can vouch for me. I don't get
So
paid
this
for
Facebook
parties.
post wasn't accurate?
No. My nephew friends did that right there. All my nephew friends. I only have parties for family members, and the family members have invited them there. I remember those posts right there, but I never do posts. Never. Ain't no posts never been through my Facebook thing. I got T-Mobile.
So going forward, you're saying that going forward, you don't have a problem with the restriction against you having paid parties in the house. That's not a problem for you, right? You don't plan
Yeah,
to
because I
have.
never did nothing like that.
Okay.
I don't get paid for parties.
So yeah, it looks like as far as the setbacks go, the only issue the staff had were the sheds. She says she doesn't mind moving the sheds, so the setbacks aren't an issue. I think it's a matter of just, looking at the conditions. Right.
Yes, sir.
And the main one you say that you're concerned about is the parking pad, the concrete.
Yes, sir.
But what about the bedrooms too? They're saying only
yeah,
4
that too.
bedrooms. You have
Downstairs?
8 bedrooms.
Downstairs.
Well, the
So
whole,
I would have to tear the wall out and combine.
Yeah, you'd
the
combine
4.
bedrooms, yeah.
I do that. Cause I divided them up. All I had to do is just tear the wall out and just add it together. Yeah, I add it together, make it 4.
Okay, and so another thing that they said with that restriction was they said no more than 2.5 baths. But what do y'all, well, we're in a discussion. To me, if you go down to 4 bedrooms, having 4.5 baths is not a weird thing to have.
yeah, I don't think it's atypical to have equal amount of bathrooms for bedrooms. I wouldn't see a reason to.
And then a hall bath too.
Yeah,
Like a
that
house.
seems
Yeah. And that's
restricted.
kind of strange because I have a rental property that I have now. I got 5 baths.
Right.
I
Okay.
got 5 bathrooms in my rental property right now
So we're adjusting.
and
to
6
allow
bedrooms.
We're talking about it, yeah. Because we're not even in our discussion yet.
Okay.
I think another big one, Kevin, is the maximum ground
Right.
floor.
Yeah, that's right.
What is that?
They have 1,900 square feet, but we think that the ground floor is closer to 3,000.
311.
I'm trying to that out.
Yeah, the staff
But I
is
think
asking.
that's the whole house.
The whole, for the ground floor, Ms. Johnson, how much do you think is on the ground?
She said about 3.
Oh, when you said it was 3,000 square feet, was
I
that
think that's the whole house.
that's including the upstairs?
Upstairs, right.
Okay, I see.
Right.
So do you know how big the ground floor, or maybe staff knows how big the ground floor
Yeah,
is?
sorry. The ground floor for 1497 Titus is 4,300 square feet.
4,300?
Yeah, that's what I was
thinking.
300?
Oh, that's the whole house, I guess.
It's pretty big.
And the second floor is 3,700 square feet.
So this overall house is over 7,000 square feet.
The entire house, I have 14,000. I think that's cumulative, but the heated is 4,300 and 3,700 on the
For the
second.
entire house or for just the downstairs?
For just the downstairs is 43.
That
square
is
feet home.
big.
This
That's
is
huge.
not a house.
This is
Okay, so let me understand. So the house is there, it stands now already.
Right.
And so staff is wanting, if the house is already there, I guess that's a question for staff. I'm trying to figure out how we reduce a standing house down to a smaller size. I mean, the house is already there, I just want to.
I think there is, so not all of the ground floor is actually original. Like if we look at the aerial photography, even from 2008, you can see it's much smaller. And I think, so a lot of those additions are stuff that the engineer has already said is structurally unsound anyway.
Repeat that,
Okay, I
I'm
see,
sorry, I
I see.
didn't get that.
the house did get bigger from what it originally was, as far as the width and depth.
Yeah, what the guy did with the bottom house, like I was saying, the whole house did not burn down. He added to it. Like the original house, it was built in what, 1951, 1950?
51.
And it was like 8 feet tall. I think that's how much the house tall they be. What he did was he added to it, made it go up like 2 more feet to 10 feet. Then he built the upstairs 8 feet. I think that's how he did it. I think he went up 2 feet and then went 8 feet upstairs.
And he added rooms on the downstairs, right? Or did
Yeah, he divided the rooms that was already
But-
there.
but he
right.
did he-
And it just made them wider, the same rooms. He just expanded the wall as he added he put in extra walls. He kept the low-bearing walls. He didn't take the low-bearing walls out. He had to take one low-bearing wall out. I remember that. But I remember him saying something about he had to keep the low-bearing walls. And all the structure that was around the house didn't burn. The front door did burn. The front door burned down. The kitchen burned down. The laundry room, all that was destroyed. The living room was destroyed. 2, 3 of the bedrooms were destroyed. The baths were destroyed. All that was destroyed. So he had to just gut it on the middle part inside. If you all knew the house before then, I couldn't explain to code because they didn't know it before then, so they just went by what they thought it was. But I knew what it was before then, and I tried to explain it to them, but they wouldn't listen, though. They didn't want to listen.
and he was not licensed, I assume.
Exactly. And I didn't know. My brother recommended him. I needed someone to do it, and I pulled a permit, but he wasn't licensed. But I thought he did. I asked him, was he licensed? He said yes. He told me yes. His interpreter said yes.
Can I ask a question?
He didn't speak too much English.
I'm having trouble.
And when I asked him, was he licensed? And the man said yes. That's what he said.
I think we have a question
But-
here.
Yes, Ms. Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
I look at this floor plan, and I'm pretty sure I see a stage in the living room. Is there a stage in the living room?
No, yeah, it is a stage in the living room. That guy was being funny putting that stage in the living room because he said that when I have birthday parties for my grandbabies, they can come up there and get their birthday gifts and stuff like that. Some just crazy humor he wanted to put right there. But that is a stage in their living room like that.
So
It's a stage in the living room. A crazy stage. It's kind of crazy, but it's a stage in the living room. It is.
So I'm terribly confused now. If she's saying the original first floor, well, if you're saying the whole floor is original, with the exception of kind of some height modifications,
Right.
and the staff is saying the original first floor is 4,300, I find that hard to believe.
No, he stretched it out.
So based on historic aerials, the original ground floor was approximately 2,200 square feet.
That's what I.
That's with either former garage or carport that was involved.
That's what I was getting at. So the house did substantially get bigger in size.
And it was only a one-story house at that time.
Yeah, and so I can see where it. And then the other thing is, I hear what you're saying, and I'm very, sympathetic, but I'm having a hard time getting past obviously the stage, which I did not see until she mentioned it, but then understanding how then seeing the advertisements and the flyers for very specific events that are being used as events. And this is your home, but there are very specific flyers listed for different events that's happening at 1497, paid events, free food, admission. There's admission cost for parties there, but you're saying parties did not happen there. There were paid event parties. So I'm trying to align those things because on the surface, it looks like this is being used for commercial events, particularly with the stage. I mean, I don't know if anybody just jokingly put a stage in their home, just kind of as a a ha-ha joke, especially if you didn't realize that was going in. So I'm just trying to get some clarity
No,
on what are we actually,
no, anyone
Looking at-
most of the pool parties that was going on in my house with my family members, my relatives and stuff, they're not allowed in the house. They're not allowed in the house. I don't have those pool party goers. You can, but see, the thing about it, what code enforcement failed to realize what they do, they need to call some of those numbers on those flyers, get in touch with some of those people. You have to investigate. You have to call people and talk to people and get information. That's how you know if stuff is accurate or not. They're not allowed in 1497. I don't let nobody in their house. Nothing but family members. That's it. Pool party goers, when my children and nephew have a party at their house, I did allow them to have a party at their house, my family members, but none of those people was allowed in my house, period.
So they had parties on the property, but not inside the house. They were
Yeah, they
outdoors
had a party at the pool, that's
parties
right.
were there.
Mhm. And I allowed for them to have a party at the house. We're dealing with them. I took no money, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you. Memphis is small. People talk. So they'll tell you the truth. They'll be like, nah, Miss Sharon, she ain't there. She won't let you know. They don't come in my house. So that stage, a lot of them don't even know I got a stage in there. They don't know nothing about that. Only the family members know about that. Because it was strictly for the family. That's what the house was for. And they'll tell you, I wasn't using it for no advertising, for no business purposes. It's for the family. That's what I built it for.
so
Yeah,
is
but
this
you
safe
got to
to,
investigate when you want to know the truth about stuff. A lot of people can say things about stuff, but to get the facts, you got to know the truth. You got to call. And that flyer is a public flyer. If they put it on Facebook, it's not on my page, but it's a public flyer. My nephew and them, they do stuff like they make beats and stuff and deal with that type of stuff.
so is it safe to say that the addition, however, we still have the whole structural issue with the new build. So I'm trying to reconcile getting down to a 1,900 square feet from
Well,
4,000.
Exactly. That's why I asked the question about the difference between the original building and the addition. I can't see where that is on the floor plan.
I'd also just like to mention, according to the assessor's website, the property 1497 Titus is still listed as a single-family one-story home at 1,537 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So that is what we would assume the original structure was to be.
But my question is where, I'm looking at this floor plan and I'm trying to figure out where that line is from between the original building
I imagine.
and what was added on.
It's gonna, this is the front of the house with the little grayed out area. It would be everything kind of, like looking up there to the board members, everything south of that middle stairway is probably what I would consider was in that original house.
I don't even think it includes.
You think it went that far?
I think it might be to the bedroom one, or
It could have been.
I just don't, because that 2-story structure seemed like that exceeds it.
The only reason I think that is because you normally wouldn't have put an outside wall there by the kitchen just to add 4 feet. That would have been more original size,
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of jutting out like it's something new. So I'm wondering if that was an original wall. But yeah, 1,500 square feet, if you have that, part of this on the front wasn't in it. Down in the lower right, that's not original. It went in before that.
Bedrooms or something.
And then most of the bedrooms in the back were added, or at least 3 or 4 of those that divided out were added in 2008. Because I can see on the map where it's fresh building, like there's no roof on it. It's like a brand new building back there. But that's before the game room and the storage room were part of it. From the pictures I'm looking at.
Now, the game room and that part of that room, that was the back porch, you guys.
Right.
That was the back porch. That's why it expanded. That was the back porch. That was the porch.
So I see on that storage room,
There
it
was
looks
no longer a porch then.
like the storage room looks like it also has a storage room in it. Like, is it a room inside the room?
The storage room?
Yeah, the big
Upstairs.
room that's beside the game room, it's marked storage room up there. So up on to the upper left, this room, go over just to the left a little bit. So there's a storage room that's pretty big. It's the biggest room in the
That's the
house.
garage.
That's the garage.
That's the garage. That's
Does
the
it have garage doors,
That's
though?
the empty room. That's the garage.
Okay.
The garage is right there in the back near the kitchen. Now, the kitchen wasn't there at first. The kitchen was in the middle of the
Sure.
house. It caught fire.
Right.
That was the kitchen, and the laundry room was beside there, and the back door was beside
Right,
the
that
kitchen.
makes sense.
Right, all of that caught fire. And you remember the back door was right there near the back porch. So all of that was closed in. That what came out to be where the game room at, you guys. They expanded it and just built that in like a game room instead of that. That's what added to that. It
But,
just,
but the storage room is not a garage now. It just was a garage. Is that correct?
no, it's empty. It's empty.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
It's empty.
It's empty.
It's empty. I mean, are there garage doors on it?
No, it's the door.
It's just,
is off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's open.
and you have to go outside to get into that, correct? You're not, it's not part of,
Exactly.
is it
You
heated
got
and
it.
cooled? Does it have air conditioner?
No,
Okay, so it's, okay.
no. Mm-mm.
So that
But you
wouldn't
gotta
necessarily go into
outside.
1,900
You're
square
right.
feet. I honestly have no idea what to do here.
You all
I mean,
have
this
to come
is-
over, and then when you see it, then you kind of get an idea.
I think what you need to do,
But you guys,
who drew the plans?
architect, his name is Lorenzen. He drew it. He's an architect. The architect drew them plans. His name is Lorenzen,
Right, okay.
architect. He a licensed architect. He drew the plans.
So it seems what may be best is that we put
That right
on,
there was the original house. That was the original one.
yeah, so that's what it looked like in
Right.
19.
That was the original, right?
Go back to that one again.
And you see the storage building right there? That's the yellow storage building right there in the middle. That
Yeah.
wasn't there before. It used to be on the other side.
That's what it
But
looked
that's
like.
the original house right there. Right. Right.
For clarity, even for the house on the right, even that is not the original house.
See, that's how it was.
I mean,
See?
you'd have to go back prior, even in the 2008 era.
You see what that
the
thing
additions
became in
added
22?
to the house.
Yeah,
That became in 22.
that's me. Right
But
there.
you put the addition on in 2008 for some of those bedrooms, right?
No. No, I don't think none of the bedrooms was like that, like they are now, divided. Mm-mm. It wasn't divided like that.
And that aligns.
Well, it's hard to know what's going
Space.
on because there's no building permits. So it makes it very difficult to figure out. All I'm looking at is pictures that we have. And it looks like some of, the back, I don't know, 30 feet of bedrooms that are now divided. I mean, I got a picture of it in 2008 and it looks like it's being
Yeah,
built.
and I did pull quite a few permits when I've been there since 1998, you guys.
Right.
But I didn't have the money, and I didn't have anyone to build things for me, so I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't finish a lot of things. And but I did pull a
Yeah,
permit
no,
for that
you're right.
storage
There's
building.
definitely some
I
permits
did
on
pull
there.
a permit for the storage building at that time, and I pulled a permit for the fence and just a lot of things that, if I started on it, I didn't have enough money to finish it because they was expensive or too high or, they didn't do a good job or something had to happen.
I just want to point out on the screen from the assessor's website is the property building sketch. So the blue shape is perhaps the original structure, and then the additions in gray are what's been added on.
That added there, because that's not even as big as what we actually have.
Yeah,
correct?
that's not even showing the most latest ad.
It's got the garage, but not the game room or those bedroom additions in the back.
Correct.
Blue is the original, is probably the original.
Yeah, and it matches that 1537.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. And I would want to say we should hold this and have you come back with a site plan of what we can do with it. Because what's there is just too much. It's just too much. It's, combine some bedrooms, make it, maybe not have a stage. I don't know. The stage is pretty insane.
Yeah, I
I'd
can
like
just
to see
take that
it.
away. I can take that away. Yeah, I can take that away. I can take that away.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I would like more than a site plan before we vote for this. I mean, I'd like to see some changes actually being made, because how many years could it rock along, once we approved it with a set of conditions? But nothing necessarily would have to be done. When would it have to be done? I guess we could ask the staff that. It could go on for at least 2 years the way it is right now. So to me, conditions are not enough. I just think that there need to be some physical changes to this building before we agree to approve anything.
I don't know if they can make any physical changes until something's approved.
Well, they said
Like,
that.
they
Well,
gotta
we're
stop
definitely
work.
doing a physical change for upstairs. Just obsolete. It's just gonna be just space up there, storage. That's it. We're definitely doing the demo for upstairs. So the upstairs will no longer exist. It won't be no upstairs. So there won't be none up there. So it'll just be the downstairs. And you said to combine the bedrooms and
Is there anything remotely in this neighborhood that is even close to the scale of this?
The largest home that we found in the neighborhood was approximately a one-story house at 19,000 square feet.
1900.
1,900 sorry, 1,900 square feet. I don't believe there are any two-story houses
Yeah.
anywhere in the vicinity,
yeah, it is. It's right around the corner. There's 3 of them.
in the immediate vicinity.
So my fear,
It's quite a few of them over there in that area.
so my fear of kind of prematurely voting something on this is, I don't think we have all the facts that we need. I don't want to set a precedent where, oftentimes we allow it's already done, let's forgive it. But I think you got to think of the entire context of the neighborhood. And I don't want to hastily vote, but if I was to hastily vote right now, it probably wouldn't be in a positive, because it's out of scale, it's structurally infeasible right now. So based on that, it will almost be something that will say you need to rework the house in its entirety, which I know is costly and I know is not what you want to hear, but I would like to, and I might be on an island, but I like to get more information, because the scale of it, the potential use of it, the structural issues with it, just seems like it's a lot going against it to just approve the conditions at this moment.
Agreed.
I agree with you.
Is that a motion to hold? Is that a motion to hold for 1 month?
But I have another question of staff. Why couldn't changes to this building be made under the governance of the environmental court? I think they do that sometimes, that they will tell
These
someone to go.
Structures need variances. Like, as you see, the one is even the original part of the single-family home encroaches into the side setback.
Yeah.
So essentially, the judge is like, well, go to the Board of Adjustment and get your variances.
Or not.
Right, or tear down the house and rebuild.
Well, I have no problem with approving a variance about the storage buildings if it's needed, and about the concrete. My concern is that this house appears to be set up for something other than a single-family dwelling. I mean, that's just what I see when I look at this site plan, so.
Is it possible that someone can come out? You can come out and look at it, and you can tell for yourself or get someone to come out? You gotta come out and look, and then you'll see what I'm saying.
We don't, I don't know what staff might do. We don't really do field trips.
I think a hold would be your best bet, just to get more information and maybe make a better case for the conditions, and even let staff reconsider what the conditions of it needs to be.
Yeah, here's some thoughts I have. I think 1,900 square feet on the floor, like ground floor, may be too small. But I know that 4,300 square feet, if that's what it is way too big. We've got to draw it back some, and that might not be 1,900 square feet. That's why I'm wanting you to come back with a plan that's adjusted, that maybe fits, but it can't be all this. I know you're going to use the second floor as an attic, and I know that after we do this, it still has to go to get the building, building code stuff and building inspections and all that. It's really not our problem a little bit, but I could even personally, I could be convinced on a double driveway. That's a lot of concrete, but a lot of people have a two-car wide driveway. That seems reasonable to me, to have something like that, as opposed to just the single, because that is pretty small for a house that's over 2,500 square feet. I don't know what the other board members say. That's just some of my thoughts on trying to give some direction of what I would want to see.
Yeah, so it sounds like we would like her to come back with plans to get rid of some of the concrete, a lot of the concrete in the front yard, and to reduce the size of the house. You'll bring a plan back to us. So how do we how do we get to a hold? Do we make a motion?
Yeah, will you make a motion for a hold?
Well, can I
go
just
ahead.
say one other thing, which is a concern that I have about this, and I'm for the hold,
Yeah.
and everything, and I don't mind something in between what the staff recommended. No,
Sure.
I don't mind any of that. But my concern is, if we approve this just with a set of conditions, how much time can pass before she actually has to make the changes?
That's always going to be environmental court to enforce it, and they're in environmental court right now.
My concern would be that it could just continue for years, and
So let's play that out a little bit. Let's say you got to have it done in 6 months, just to give a date. It still gets enforced through environmental court. It's always environmental court that's going to do the enforcement part. Now, you might say, well, let's put 6 months on it, but then at least they see a clock, right?
I would like to have some time limit on it, so that it just doesn't keep on going. And then, of course, once we approve something, you have a Board of Adjustment approval there. There's that too. So anyway, I just wanted to express some of those concerns that I would have about this.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we get a motion? Somebody want to give the motion for the hold?
I motion hold this for 1 month, just to get some additional information and time to figure out an alternative version of this house.
Okay. All right, moved and second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the hold, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're going to hold. We'll hopefully see you in 30 days and work something out.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am. If we could call the next case we're going to hear today.
Item number 5, BOA 2024-62 at 1360 Carr Avenue.
All right, is the applicant present? Okay, I see the applicant. So applicant will come down. I know we have some opposition here. If staff could give us a report.
Chloe Christian with DPD, presenting BOA case BOA 2024-0062. The applicant is Burrow Investments. and the location is at 1360 Carr Avenue. The request is a use variance from section 2.5.2 to allow a large home. Here is a location map of the subject property, and a total of 105 notices were mailed on June 20th, 2024. The property is zoned residential single-family 6, and it is also within the Central Gardens Historic District overlay and the residential corridor overlay, And the land use map to the right indicates that the surrounding uses are mixed with single-family and multifamily, as well as institutional. Here are some site photos of the subject property from Carr Avenue. And here are the current and proposed site plans. The current site plan is on the left-hand side, and the proposed site plan is on the right-hand side. Note the expansion of the concrete walk in front, and the demolition of the accessory dwelling unit in the rear to accommodate for parking. Here is the first floor plan. There are proposed to be one bedroom unit and one 2-bedroom unit on the first floor. And the second floor plan also proposes one 1-bedroom unit and one 2-bedroom unit. In regards to Memphis 3.0, the proposal is consistent with the goals of the Memphis 3.0 comprehensive plan. So in conclusion, although the single-family zoning designation for the property does not allow for multifamily uses, staff would like to note that there are some legal non-conforming large multifamily homes located along Carr Avenue. The enclosed photos of those homes are located on pages 39 through 40 of the staff report. The home was originally built in 1906 as a single-family home per the 1952 Sanborn map, and at some point prior to 2018 and after 1952, it was converted into multiple dwelling units. However, it is not clear when this transition occurred, as it remains listed as single-family on the assessor's website and the land use map. However, historically, a large home has not been a permitted use at the subject property since the adoption of zoning in 1922. The property has undergone changes in ownership, including a period of ownership by a Dr. Ahn from 2018 to 2023, when the issue regarding the number of dwelling units was discovered. And in 2019, the BOA approved an appeal case, number BOA 2019-38, subject to a private agreement between Ahn and Carr Avenue residents. However, that agreement did stipulate that it was non-transferable to future owners of the property. The property has remained vacant for over a year, and it is unclear what may happen to the home in the future if the requests were not approved. However, if approved, the current owner would be allowed to maintain the pre-existing 4-unit large home with the proposed renovations, including the removal of the ADU in the rear. And if denied, the by right option would be to just renovate the large home into a single-family detached house. In regards to parking concerns, the submitted plans indicate that there will be parking for 4 cars provided in the rear. However, the UDC requires a minimum of 7 parking spaces for this project. It regulates that multifamily households in all other zoning districts must have 1.5 units for each 1 or 2-bedroom dwelling and 0.15 units per guest. And also per the parking reduction table on 4.5.3E, legal on-street parking can be substituted for off-street parking, provided that it's located on a public right-of-way immediately abutting the property. Additionally, the table stipulates that 1 parking space may be reduced for every 5 bicycle parking spaces provided. So with 2 on-street parking spaces on Carr and the inclusion of bicycle parking and the 4 indicated parking spaces, the parking would be in compliance with the UDC. Although the conversion to a large home was not permitted when it occurred at an unknown time, The use itself has existed without causing substantial detriment to the public good, nor been injurious to the neighborhood. Further, the existing compatibility of multifamily uses mixed with single-family uses in this neighborhood can be seen on the land use map on page 6 of this report. And the granting of this variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public good, nor will it substantially impair the intent and purpose of an adopted plan or the code, nor will it be injurious to the neighborhood or the general welfare, and it will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the UDC. So staff recommends approval with conditions. Number 1, plan shall be submitted to the Memphis Landmarks Commission for review and approval through the COA process. The maximum number of dwelling units permitted shall be no more than 4. An updated site plan that indicates parking for at least 4 cars in the rear and a bike rack, for 5 bikes in compliance with the UDC section 4.5.3 must be submitted for review and approval by DPD. The structure shall remain residential in style and appearance and adhere to the Central Gardens Historic District design guidelines. An updated landscape plan with adequate screening of evergreen trees and shrubs for noise buffer along the western property line must be submitted for review and approval by DPD. And any change or deviation from the site plan upon the determination of the zoning administrator shall be submitted to the Board of Adjustment for review and approval or administrative review and approval by DPD. That concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Christian? Okay, thank you. If the applicant can come forward, you'll give your name and address for the record.
You said my name and address?
Yes, sir.
My name is William Falk. I'm a representative of Oro Investments, and the address in question here is 1360 Carr Avenue.
And I need your address as well, just for the record.
Sure. Be 6000 Poplar Avenue.
Perfect.
Suite 150.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. Are y'all all going to be talking?
As far as presenting, I would prefer a little bit of backup here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to shock you. This is my first appearance before this board. Still kind of getting my feet under me.
Sure.
And as far as answering questions, I will more than likely be deferring to my counterparts.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and get names and addresses and swear you all in, and then we'll start with the presentation.
Hello to everybody. My name is Juan Carpio, and I'm partner of Oro Investments.
Okay. And address?
My address is 1099 Harpeth Drive.
Okay, and you, sir?
My name is David May. Good afternoon. I'm partners with Juan Carpio and Oro Investments, and my address is 12131 Brooks River Drive in Arlington.
Okay, and do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead if you want to start presenting.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here obviously about 1360 Carr Avenue. Apologize for the feedback. If there's anything I can do differently, please let me know to avoid that.
He'll work on it while you're talking, so
Okay.
don't worry.
So this property, as the board is aware, has for the better part of a century been used as a apartment building, typically with an owner living in the apartment in one of the units and renting these other units out. Now, what was done or not done prior to Oro Investments taking ownership of the property is not something we can speak to. However, we can speak to the plans that we have proposed here today. Largely, it amounts to the status quo with respect to having inhabitable units in this residential neighborhood. A few things I'd like to point out is these renovations are necessary, particularly on the interior of the building. I apologize, I was not able to print off physical copies of photos, but we do have electronic copies of photos available for review showing the interior of the home in shambles. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in this property while maintaining the integrity of this beautiful historic neighborhood. Oro Investments is entirely committed to maintaining the integrity of the Central Gardens historic neighborhood. There are in this house, for lack of a better term, 6 kitchens, which would indicate that this was used previously as more than 4 units. However, Oro Investments is willing to limit that to 4 units, and as you'll see in our plans, this is a 4 condominium. As far as the issues of parking, Oro Investments has invested significant money in renovating this home to make it compliant with this board, including, as you'll see, additional parking spaces, while maintaining the front, the green space, and the potential beauty of this home, with addition to the street parking, should assuage any issues with the parking. And I would also like to point out that if the residents have an issue with the parking, this is the same issue that has been existing for the better part of, since 1952 till 2019. Carr Avenue is sufficient to hold any overflow of vehicles that would be in this property, even with the added space. Currently, there's nothing stopping anyone from parking on the street. The neighbors have indicated in a letter that they sent to the board that they have some concerns about street parking, given its proximity to Cleveland. However, I don't truly believe that is going to be an issue here, as it doesn't seem to have been an issue before. My office received that letter at about 1:30 this afternoon, so we did our best to read through it and figure out how we can address these concerns on fairly short notice. This house, there's no evidence suggesting that this house was only rented by family and friends of the owners. There's been no evidence submitted to back that claim up. It's impossible to prove a negative, however. So again, I can't truly speak to that issue. In addition, they brought up concerns about this being condominiums as opposed to apartments. If there are any issues that the neighbors potentially could foresee about property values, I would submit that owners do not typically lower property values in the same way that some people might suggest that renters would. These condos would be owned by individuals who have a financial interest in keeping them up and preserving the integrity of this area. The back house, as you'll see in the plans, right by the alley, is entirely dilapidated and not fit for human habitation. In order to effectuate our plans with the parking, this building will be demolished. I don't believe that anyone has any issues with this building being demolished, but will be a necessary step to ensure that there's adequate parking supplemented by the street parking, which it is immediately on Carr Avenue. Additionally, there is an alley that runs behind the home, which we intend to place a gate providing a rear entrance. That way there's not any issues with too many people coming on the front entrance and car and causing any congestion or anything of the like. The new plans include 4 units, 2 of which are 1 bedroom, 2 bath, while the other 2 are 2 and 2. So we have a total of 6 bedrooms, 2 down and 2 up. While our opposition has submitted that we could have as many as, I believe they said, 20 people living in this property, it seems unlikely to me, given the fact that we have 2 2-bedroom units and 2 1-bedroom units, that we could conceivably squeeze 16 to 20 people in this home. So for those reasons, we would submit to this board that this board should approve this variance to essentially formalize what has already been going on, with a very minor distinction with the apartment condo issue. But essentially this has been going on for, like I said, the better part of a century, and we're just simply asking that this board approve what is already going on, given the alternative of if this house can't be renovated with the interior situation, this house will fall apart over time. This house will certainly plummet property values if it's falling apart. Without these investors, that's what we're looking at. So for those reasons, we'd ask this board for approval. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any time left? What was the time left before we go into questions? 3 minutes. You'll have 5 minutes for rebuttal. I think we have some questions for you real quick.
Yes. You say 6 kitchens. Where are those kitchens located? We have some illustrations in the staff report, and they show the existing floor plan and the proposed floor plan. But no, there are no kitchens shown on the existing floor plan. So I'm just wondering where they are.
The 6 kitchens he's talking about is existing when we buy the property. When we buy the property, the house have 6 apartments into the house with somebody convert into 6 apartments. When we
My question is, where are the 6 kitchens?
there are 3 apartments on the first floor and 3 apartments on the second floor right now.
But you can't really say on that.
No, because this is the new layout. Those drawings is the new layout.
Yeah.
You only, on these floor plans, you only
Yeah,
can
but he's
see 2
saying
kitchens
there's
because
6
we have 2
kitchens.
apartments on the first floor and 2 apartments on the second floor.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what he
We
said.
have pictures over here on the old ones if you want to see it.
Okay, I'm going to go on and ask my other question while they're. How many meters are on this house?
There are 3 current meters right now.
They have 3 separate meters?
Yes,
On that service the large house.
that's correct. On the large house, they have 1. On the back building, there are 2 more.
There's 2 on the back building that you're
That's
going to
correct.
tear down, but only 1 on the house. Is that what you're
That's
saying?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
When you purchased the house in January, did you know that it couldn't be used for this purpose?
No, we trust on the person sell to us as an A apartments. We really know investigated for the history of this person with us. And we know investigations. The person sell the property to us is trusting person with a big maintenance company. So we never investigated because the history of the person, and that was our mistake.
Is the seller that you bought it from, is he your lender right now?
We divide the house from the banker, from the person who loaned the money to the last owner. The last owner was the doctor. In between that period was another investor involved.
Okay.
Who's get out of business, and the banker recovered the house, and where we get the house from.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Mary, I know what you're saying, but I can see where there's 3 units. I'm assuming there's a kitchen in each one. But like I can kind of follow the walls as far as what connects.
I don't see
Yeah.
that. The dark lines are where they're demolishing walls. I can't get that from
Yeah.
that floor plan.
Well, they said it under oath, so I'll take that. I don't know if that affects much of any of my decision making. But okay, we're gonna, unless y'all have more to add, y'all have 3 minutes if you want to, or we can move to the opposition and y'all can reserve that time for rebuttal for a total of 5 minutes of rebuttal.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move to the opposition. And I have some names. Do y'all want me to call somebody, or have y'all kind of talked about who might want to talk? I'm thinking Mr. Field wants to talk.
Yes, I'm Porter Fields, 1490 Goodbar Avenue, and I'm representing several of the owners. And I would just like to, well, if you need to swear me
And you're
in.
speaking as an attorney for them, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then I don't need to swear you in.
But
You're an officer of the
I'll
court.
tell the truth anyway, Judge.
Yeah.
I try to do that when I talk. I'd just like the people that are here in opposition, whether they're going to speak or not, I'd ask them to just raise their hand and show who came to show opposition to this approval. And I would also ask that I think there are a number of people that would like to speak, and I would ask for a suspension of the 10 minutes to allow the neighbors time to say what they have to about this plan and how it will affect them.
Anything we suspend is going to be added to the other side. I mean,
That's fine. I don't mind if they have.
We can give, I would be willing, I mean, there's a lot of people, but are y'all in favor of having more than 10 minutes in opposition?
Do we need more than 10 minutes? I mean,
We'll have the first 10 minutes and then decide.
Okay,
How about that?
I'll be brief. I'll be brief. I can tell the
Yeah,
staff.
and if anybody wants to say, hey, give me a minute, we're happy to tell them how long it's been, because you know how it is when you start talking, it ends up being 7 minutes.
I'm hoping I'm going to take about a minute, so.
Yeah, okay.
This
Go ahead.
house has been empty for more than 365 days today. So any grandfathering that occurred based on anything that the applicant has said shouldn't apply. In order to come in with a new plan, they have to comply with R6 zoning as it exists today, and this plan does not do that. Number two, the hardship that they must show in order to get the use variance is going to have to be that there's no other viable use for this property under its current condition. For the past 45 years, this property has been occupied and used within the strictures of the R6 zoning district in an effective manner. The Casino Ritchie family lived there, rented an occasional room out to some other family members. That's how it got into this configuration from 1950 through 2018. That was in full compliance with the R6 zoning rules. Dr. Ahn, we objected to Dr. Ahn's development in 2019. We reached an agreement that he would lease 4 of these apartments to 4 separate individuals who would maintain a household as one house with 1 meter on the residence. He did that. That's in full compliance with the R6 zoning district. There's never been a time that I know of, that the neighbors can talk to this directly from a factual standpoint, that this house has been operated as 6 separate apartment units, rented like an apartment complex. That's never happened. Your Honor, I would submit that those facts to suggest that there's just no legal basis to grant this variance based on that. Now, I want to talk just briefly before I turn it back over to the neighbors about the hardship that the applicant is submitting. Last fall, we discovered that the property was being advertised as an apartment building. And the neighbors had me write to the seller of the property and provide him the agreement that we reached with Dr. Ahn. And I made the statement to the seller in my letter that said, we're going to object if this thing is used as an apartment complex. Now, of course, we did not know about OYO Investments at that time. We couldn't contact them, but we did our best to notify the seller that we were not going to stand for just opening up the doors to a 6-unit or 4-unit or whatever apartment complex on this residential street. So with all that, I would urge denial of the use permit. I turn this over to the other neighbors who would like to speak to the factual burdens.
We'll stop the clock, but are there any questions for Mr. Field?
I have a question. And I'm referring to a sentence in the staff report where there was an inspector in 2019 who inspected the home and found that it was being used for one family of 4 unrelated individuals as permitted by zoning. And I think you said that. And but you also mentioned the word apartments in there. And to me, 4 unrelated individuals living together as a family, it's a lot different from having 4 apartments. And so I'm asking you, were there 4 apartments or was it just 4 unrelated individuals living there?
Well, I believe that it was 4 unrelated individuals that were living there, but the configuration of the house did suggest that there were separate spaces that could be rented. I think I think the neighbors, again, can speak to this factually, that there was at least one individual that was always a family member of the Casino Ritchie family that was living in a separate space that he maintained in that house. But it was never more than that. It was mostly occupied by the Casino Ritchie family, and they would just occasionally have someone else live there. And then apparently somebody did in the past have some big plans because they do have multiple kitchens throughout the house, but it was never utilized for that purpose.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Field? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and so I like that y'all know. That helps. You'll give your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. I am, goodness gracious, I'm loud. I'm Kathy Ferguson, and I'm at 1380 Carr Avenue, 2 houses down from the property in question. And my family, we've lived at our property for 16 years. So I'm here to speak a little bit about the history of the home that you're questioning about the Ritchie family. I knew the Ritchie family very well.
Let me swear you in real quick.
Pardon me? Oh,
let me swear
yes.
you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Do you want us to tell you it's taken so long, or you just want to?
I'll try not to ramble. How about that? I'll promise not to go too long. Yeah, that would be great if you could let me know when I have like 30 seconds or so.
Well, I mean, how much time do we have? We have 7 minutes, but there's other people.
I want other people to be able to speak.
So do you want to talk for 2 minutes?
I'll talk for 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So the Ritchie family that lived there from the 50s until Mrs. Ritchie, I called her Mrs. Ritchie, passed away in 2018. The home was owned by the Ritchies. It was a great aunt, and she left that house to Mrs. Ritchie. Mrs. Ritchie had 2 daughters that grew up in the house. Never married, one married but came back, and so they were adult children. So over the years, as the family grew and became older, Mrs. Ritchie moved downstairs to would have been the living room where the pocket doors were. And the times that I went to the house, you would walk in the front door, there was a beautiful fireplace, and they had a little living area there. And then to the right was a sun porch where they kept their bicycles and such. And Mrs. Ritchie had the downstairs dwelling, is what I will call it, because it wasn't really an apartment. Her wall opened up with those pocket doors, and you would see her living area. And then Gina lived in a dwelling in the back area, and her sister lived upstairs. There was some extra space that they would rent out, but it was always to like a cousin or an in-law or something like that. They were a family that was engaged on the block. Gina Ritchie would do face painting, and she would come to all the kids' birthday parties and paint the faces. They had extravagant Halloween decor. I mean, they were a single family living in that home and engaged on Carr Avenue and engaged in Central Gardens. So I want to make sure that that is clear. I've been in the home. I was in the home from, start off having a glass of wine on the porch, and then they say, come on inside, we're taking inside the house. It was, disjointed and kind of unusual, but you could tell they just kind of put up a drywall here or put in a toilet here for their own purposes. It was never intended to be a multi-family apartment rental complex. And I would tell you that the living sisters, Carla and Gina, are mortified at the thought of this. They thought of coming today, but they're so saddened by the passing of their mother, and this whole ordeal really upsets them. I have served on the board of the Central Gardens Association on and off for a total of 10 years. I'm past president of the association. I have twice been the host of our historic home tour. I love this neighborhood. We all invest not only financially in our properties, but we invest emotionally in the people that dwell in these homes. We expect them to be neighbors that feel the same way about living in Central Gardens and on Carr Avenue. This variance would allow a major change in Central Gardens and on Carr Avenue. I beg you to please oppose it. This was set such a horrible precedent. And if you have any questions about the home, I'm happy to, from my memory, tell you what I know.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Ferguson?
Quick question. Now, you said the one unit was rented, or was it just used?
It was just used. So when you walked in, again, you walked in the front door, there was a beautiful fireplace. You could still see the grandeur of the old home. But to the left, there was pocket doors. And if you opened up those pocket doors, that was the original living room, and that's where Mrs. Ritchie had her living room. And then she had a small bedroom, and these kitchens that you speak of, I would call them kitchenettes. I mean, there might have been a very small, like apartment-sized oven in there, or even just a microwave, it was never planned to be, they were not intending it to be apartment spaces. These were separate dwellings so that the aging mother who died in the home could stay in her house and have her separate space. And then the older daughters who were about my age, y'all can guess what that is, but they also lived in the home and kind of wanted their separate spaces. So they just, and I don't know how they did it, and I know how they did it without permitting. They did it before I moved in, but they just kind of made their own little separate spaces so that they could all be adults living in a home, but still keep it under the single family residence. And so it was never really conducive. If you think about it, you walk in, there's kind of a living area, and then there's like that side porch where people, they would keep their bicycles or whatever, outdoor equipment was over there. The home itself was never really conducive for people that didn't know each other. I mean, it's not like you had, Miss Ritchie had the pocket doors, it wasn't as though there was like a key and a lock and you had an apartment and you had an apartment and you had an apartment. They were family members that lived together in the same dwelling.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. All right, if you'll give your name and address for the record for me. How much time do we have left now?
Hi, Larry Ryder.
About 4 minutes, okay.
And I'm at 1361 Vinton Avenue, which is one street behind Carr.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, and
go ahead.
I would hope that you can help me with my slides. Thank you. So I have a couple slides for you guys. I'm going to stick to facts. I'm a professor at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. I'm not going to get emotional right now. I'm just going to give you 2 minutes, okay? If we can go to the next slide. So we've talked about this investment group a little bit. That's already in violation, has a stop work order. And that Central Gardens has been, as you just heard, historically a single-family neighborhood. Click, please. So most people own their own homes. You can just go through these. There's no rental apartments in Central Gardens. We'll talk about that in a second. Historic doesn't mean facade, okay? Historic means historically a single-family home in this neighborhood. And many of the owners, including myself, have pulled permits and improved our homes with the intention of building equity in the neighborhood. So splitting houses into apartments, let's just face it, they've already told you that it's going to decrease property values. I mean, they mentioned it in their initial statement. If you can click in. So I just want to show you what that means. You can go to apartments.com. If you look at that circle, that's actually this property, because when I searched for this property, it came up as a rental apartment at that circle. And if you notice, all of the rental apartments are on the other side of South Cleveland. Those of you who know this area know that that area is not Central Gardens. It's Ansdale. It's Ansdale Park to the left of Cleveland. To the right is Central Gardens. And the one green triangle on Harvard is actually a house for rent. It's the entire house, not an apartment. If you can click one more time. I did a quick off-the-cuff estimate, okay? I looked in homes.com. I looked at homes in that region in Ansdale and homes in Central Gardens. If you take 4 homes that are essentially equivalent and you look at the price per square foot, you find that in Ansdale it's $131 per square foot, and in Central Gardens it's an average of $185 per square foot. The intention of this slide is to convince you that there are factors. Maybe it's not just the fact that there are multiple rental apartments and rental units in Ansdale. Maybe there are other factors, but to my mind, having that many apartment complexes and rental complexes is decreasing the value of the houses in Ansdale that are equivalent to houses in some cases in Central Gardens. One more slide. So really, I just wanted to say, we're going to lose the quiet, historic, single-family neighborhood, the history being the single-family neighborhood, to an out-of-state investment group that wants to split a house up into apartments.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Reeder? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
We got about 4 minutes. and address for the record.
Hey, Shelley Rainwater, 1432 Harbor.
Hey, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do,
Okay.
and I will not take 4 minutes. Because staff report had, first, I am the chair of the Central Gardens Landmarks Committee, so I speak on behalf of our board. And because staff referenced 3.0 in recommending approval for this, I'd like to address a couple of those things. 3.0 calls for redevelopment. We don't need redevelopment. Central Gardens is very steady. I'm a realtor of 24 years, and I can tell you our properties sell really, really well and for a really good price. And if you start to allow rental in, that's going to change. The reason we started our neighborhood association some decades ago is because of suburban sprawl. A lot of people have moved away. Our properties were turned into apartments and boarding houses. My own house was a boarding house until the early 80s. And property values plummeted. Nobody wanted to live there. Lots of rental, no homeowners or fewer homeowners. We've spent a long time trying to remedy that, and we have always thought we had the protections of our zoning and of our Landmarks Commission, who does protect us, but we found out they can't help us with usage, which is why we're here. Also mentioned in 3.0 is a future land use that aligns development types with neighborhood context, investment potential, and community desires. Our context is single family. The majority of the multifamilies in the neighborhood are original to the neighborhood. There are a few. And the examples that y'all used, the last gentleman spoke to that, of the other multifamilies were in Ansdale, not in Central Gardens. And if you ask a representative from Ansdale what they think about that, I promise you they would all tell you they hate it and they wish they could get rid of the rental because it definitely decreases their property values and holds down their values, and single families want to move into their neighborhood. As far as investment potential, same thing. Our property values are going to plummet. If you let one in, it's going to set a bad precedent. The next people are going to use it. You're going to say the one next door is, so let's have another and another and another. And guess what? That means decreased property values and decreased property taxes for the city, so everybody loses. As far as community desires, they're pretty much being ignored. You've got 9 letters of opposition in this big crowd here, and I promise there are dozens of other neighbors who couldn't make it because we didn't know this was going to be recommended for approval until 3 days ago, so we just didn't have time. But there were not a single letter of support from this from anyone, as far as I know. So to conclude what Central Gardens feels, we expect changes with 3.0. We're looking for that. We know it's going to happen, but we've been told repeatedly that we would have community meetings and community input before any major changes were made that affect our neighborhood and our homes and our values. None of those meetings have been had yet. That's still in the future, yet these proposed changes are being applied today in a way that is really going to be detrimental to our properties.
We got a minute total left, just so you know.
Okay.
I just want you to know.
No, I want to make sure if anybody else wants to speak, we're just asking you to say no and let us get through 3.0 and have our neighborhood meetings and have our input before you do this to us.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Rainwater?
I'll save it.
We'll save it. All right, we got 45 seconds.
Kieran Hanamiah, 1419 Carr Avenue. I live a few houses down from 1360.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I can speak specifically to property values versus Ansdale and Central Gardens. I moved right down the street about a year ago from 1265 Carr Avenue, where we have numerous multifamily homes. I sold a 3,400 square foot home for $400,000. I purchased a 2,400 square foot home down the street for over $500,000. The character of the neighborhood, I feel like, would be forever changed by adding a condo. Not to mention fear that the condos would be quickly turned into Airbnbs and things of that nature. You're talking about 4 units and 4,800 square foot. Okay, so they're creating 4 units out of 4,800 square foot. I do feel like there's a high probability there that this will quickly turn into an unsatisfactory situation.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. Now let me ask, does anybody on the board need to hear any further testimony? No. Okay, we're going to move back to rebuttal. We have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Sure, and I don't honestly think I'll take up all of the board's time with this. I just want to address a couple of the concerns that the neighbors pointed out. Oro Investments, firstly, is one, Mr. Carpio is a resident of Memphis. He lives in and around Shelby Farms. This business that he runs specifically rehabilitates historic homes with great results in the past. And I'd also like to point out that Oro Investments is not and has not listed these units for rent anywhere. Whatever the previous owner listed, whatever he tried to do, was his prerogative. But the intention here is not to make 4 apartment complexes, but to make 4 condominiums that will be owned by people that will become members of their community. These are people that could join their HOA. They seem to think that whoever's going to live here isn't going to be a good neighbor, from what I've heard. And I, as a former renter, would certainly disagree that even if it was a renter, that would make someone any less engaged in the community and any less a neighbor. The idea that these weren't apartments previously, I don't mean to suggest that these neighbors are maliciously bending the truth or anything, but simply that they just may not be fully aware that, to the point where there are numbers on the doors of these individual units. I have on my phone right now, I can show the board at least numbers 1 through 3. We're still searching for the rest of those pictures as they are buried in a long album. To address the concern that there's not enough square footage here, I'd also like to point out that yes, the square footage is the square footage, but we're actually lowering the amount of units, which is going to expand each individual unit. What we have here is a company trying to do business, trying to get a falling apart house a second chance or a third chance, or it's an old house, however many chances we're on here, but owner-occupied dwellings, members of their community. Their kids will go to school with each other. They'll see each other walking their dogs. This is not as if we're bringing in some sort of agent of chaos to move into this neighborhood and just ruin it. And for those reasons, we would ask, again, that this board approve, as it is already recommended for approval, the plans for the variance. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
I don't know if it's a question for him or if it's going to be us in discussion, so
I can go ahead and ask it.
Well, I think he's already answering. I mean,
there's no rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Could I ask for leave just to address one point that was raised with some force during the rebuttal?
Anybody want to hear any? I don't see 5 hands.
Thank you.
Yeah, but noted.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that though. So, up to you on if you want to ask a question now, or
we can talk about it amongst ourselves.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Well then, no questions. If we can get a motion to approve, because we always get the motion and then discuss BOA 2024-62 as a condition by staff.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Discussion.
All right. Now we can get this. So a couple of things I was writing down as we were talking. When I look at the true R6 by the UDC, it seems that it's very straightforward what it can be used. But it seems like the community seems to be making a very obvious exception for how it was being used even prior to now. When you talk about 4 strangers living together, and if they're paying rent, or if anybody is paying any kind of rent for that function to live together as a stranger, that goes against the UDC, and it's by default as well. So that's one point that it was already kind of not going in what the UDC was saying. One other thing that was mentioned that I do agree with, if this is going to be condos, I think there is a level of ownership that is different from apartments. So I do tend to agree that if it's strictly condos, there is going to be a level of, it's not going to have that same level of not being involved or no ownership. So I do like that part.
That's if it's owner occupied.
That's if,
right?
If it's owner occupied. So one thing I wanted to ask is, if it is condos, could we not just put a condition on it where it could not be short-term leased? Or could we do that?
Yes, you would have the authority to.
We have the authority to do that, right?
That was my question.
Okay, well, those are my 3 points for discussion. I just wanted to, maybe.
You have the, I see on your computer.
Yeah.
So is multifamily allowed per that chart?
Multifamily is not allowed per this chart, but.
What would be close?
The closest thing I have is single-family detached, conventional, side yard and cottage. And with a conditional use permit, they could actually go in there and do a rooming house, or it was something else I saw. They could do a supportive living facility. They can do a personal care home for the elderly. Group, so they could do group living if they wanted to do that. And yeah, so there are conditional uses that are not exactly the same, but I would probably think you would prefer this more than that. They can get a conditional use for, if they wanted to, a container home even. So
let's hope not.
Or a manufactured modular home. So I guess what I'm saying is,
The options could be different.
the options can be different and they can be worse.
So you're suggesting that we add a condition that only owners, that it cannot be rented out. It has to be condominiums, not apartments, and even then it can't be rented out. Is that what you're suggesting?
That would be the start of it, yes. Or if it's gonna, yes, because what I don't want to happen is somebody purchases a condo and then their immediate intent is to now go rent it, even if it's long-term rentals. So I would think that would be something that we can write into it that will at least alleviate those concerns about not having ownership.
And are we saying that should we vote that direction, the 4 units, not anything permitted for like 6? And I didn't see, I know they mentioned.
Oh, limit the number of units.
I definitely wouldn't go up to 6 with their square foot. I mean.
That is in there. I'm torn on this case. I'm still thinking it through. I know that I remember back, for those of us that have been on the board long, I can't remember when it was, 18, Jeffrey, was that our last case we had? It was 18 or 19 with
On
Jason
this subject
on?
property?
What now?
On this subject property?
Yeah.
It was from 2019.
2019.
And it was an appeal, I guess, related to the definition of single family.
Right, and that's where everybody kind of agreed that.
Well, everyone agreed on the definition of single family. I guess one of the problems here is, even in this agreement, it says between Jason On and the neighbors that it has a total of 6 dwelling units. And they also state that Jason On did not cause the situation. This existed prior to his ownership, which means it occurred under the Richies, which means the Richies were the one who converted this into a large home and operated it as a large home.
Exactly.
Regardless of the relations or friendships, it was operated as a large home.
And that's kind of the point I'm making. It's been used for some version of multifamily previously, but it seems to be accepted that that's what it was used for previously.
Correct.
But then hasn't been used for a while.
Has it? Oh, I guess we did.
Yeah, we're past a year of it being used that way.
The time frame of when it was used, actually the year, isn't really relevant because it was never a legal use when the Richies did this originally. If you remember, they never got building permits to do any of this. So as far as anyone knew other than the neighbors, it was a single family home because that's what the assessor's data reflects. As where the assessor would have updated their data to a large home, I can't remember, they call it like apartment, community apartment or something, but they generally base that on building permit data. So without the previous owner ever filing a building permit to do the work, the assessor would have had no idea that this had changed the use of the structure.
So the clock would not have started as far as saying not used.
Right.
There is no clock because it wasn't officially approved.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts?
Well, I would just add on to what's been said. Certainly, if it were, if the owner, the developer intended to use it for apartments, that would be a problem. But in this case, that's not the case. They're talking about it being condominiums, meaning they're going to sell it to owners who are going to be part of the neighborhood because they live there permanently, as opposed to a year or whatever a short-term lease might say. So that helps. That helps.
If we add that condition, because
If
they
we
weren't saying, they were saying condos, they never said owner occupied.
Well, I think we add that.
That's right.
I will add that condition just to hold them to that truth.
Well, I guess I'll comment on this. To me, and I'll go to what Mr. Pence's said, what we're discussing doing right now is actually converting this house to 4 apartments legally, because it has never been converted to 4 apartments. What they did illegally without a permit, I don't even think we should consider. That's just my opinion. And my other issue, the other point I guess I would make is I don't see the hardship here. I don't see any physical differences between this property and the other properties in the surrounding area. And then, of course, after you get past the unusual conditions, you might say, well, the unusual conditions are that those kitchens had been built in there, and the family members were living there. But then the second part of the use variance requirement is that there's not a legally permitted use that this property can be put to. That's the second standard for a use variance. And this house can easily be a single-family dwelling, especially when you consider the values of Central Garden homes. That there's just no way that this house, given the opportunity that someone could take it and convert it to a family home. So I don't believe that the hardship is there. So those are my points about it.
Has there been any sightings or any work stop orders on this property? No?
I believe there was definitely an enforcement case back in 2019 when the question of single family was brought to our attention. Have there been any other questions?
I was going to say, I believe that there has been a stop work order issued for the exterior renovations to the home that have been made without filing for a COA.
And I agree, the house could be used as a single family. If somebody wanted to, buy it, invest in it, tear out the kitchens, make one kitchen, I suppose. My biggest question is, why was the exception allowed, even by the neighborhood, to kind of turn the other eye, knowing that it was previously still being rented in some capacity under the pretense of it was amongst people living as a family? I mean,
I mean, you're allowed to rent any house to 4 people living as a family. Like you
Was
could
it 4
have-
people, or was it limited to 4 people that was living?
It was
there?
4 renters. I mean, but it was like, that's what a household is. Any bigger than that, it becomes a boarding house. So I think what was agreed to before was basically, yeah, just, it's fine for you to rent to 4 people. They could have always done that.
So there's a legal right to do that and still be under
In
the.
most places, like you can just rent, 4 unrelated people can rent a house together. If you go to 5, you're a boarding house.
So how is, I'm sorry, I'm confused right now. So how is what they're doing different from that? I mean, they've
That
got-
was as a single household, shared spaces. It was what was agreed to. Whether they ever did that, I don't know, because we haven't been inside it. But that would be, just like 4 students at the University of Memphis, they have the common room and they have their own bedrooms and bathrooms and stuff like that. That's what I remember about that case.
Yeah, it's the definition of a single family. I mean, there's a family that's related, and then up to 4 unrelated people can live together as a family, like 4 students living in a house. And then, the group home conditions that you mentioned, but there's a lot of state permits and so on that you have to get to qualify to be, that kind of home under the Fair Housing Act and the definition of single family. And so to me, from all I have heard, it does not sound to me like this home has been used for anything other than something that would fit under the definition of a single-family dwelling.
The point of information would just be that simply based on having 6 dwelling units in there, the relation of the individuals occupying separate dwelling units would not have got them out of the zoning issue.
Yeah.
But if you couldn't turn a single-family home into a large home and then say, well, we're all brothers, so it doesn't matter. You've changed the physical condition of the structure to create
By
6
adding
separate dwelling
the 6 kitchens by default eliminates that argument, I think.
I mean, you could think like an apartment building, they still have like a common area sometimes, but that doesn't mean it's anything other than an apartment building.
Gotcha.
Nowadays, because you have video rooms or fitness room, or you have a game room, and then you have the individual units, so.
Right, and you couldn't argue, well, we have those shared facilities, so we're just a single-family home. Because you do have the separate dwelling units themselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't vote for it. I mean, like, I'm looking at the plans, all the walls are changing. I mean, it's like they're doing such a huge rehab. It's not like our convenience store that we had on consent, which is, it was a convenience store. It's not like we could convert a convenience store to a house that easily. This thing's being converted from whatever the crap it was to something different.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely some walls, but, I mean, you look at the plans, look at all the black walls that are moving. Like, they're getting rid of a ton of the structure on the inside. So it's not like we had a duplex. It was 2 separate things. It's still going to be a duplex. It's almost like it's a different layout. I think on a different case, I could maybe get there. I don't know if I could do it with this house and this layout.
I look at the interior wall demolition, and I honestly, right or wrong, just see it trying to make an already wrong situation more efficient. Even though, yeah, they are making a lot of changes to it, but it's not changing what it was. It's not changing how it was already divided. I mean, it was already subdivided. Right or wrong, it was already subdivided. This is just saying, all right, now we're going to make it subdivided a little bit better.
They possibly could, for less money, could make it back into single family, but it wouldn't be as valuable. Renovate 1 kitchen, not 4. Still got to move walls,
Yeah,
but
it's a tough one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
yeah.
I think
So, y'all ready to vote? Or you want to talk some more? Would you like, who made the motion?
I think
might have.
he made the original motion to go.
Mr. Bruce made the motion and
Okay.
Mr. Campbell second.
So could we go ahead and add to that, though, as we vote? I think you would like a condition that if approved, it would have to be turned into a condominium.
Correct.
And it would have to be owner-occupied condos.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, so that can be added and reseconded. Okay. So that's what we're voting on, and the conditions by staff.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Penzis, you'll get us a roll call, please.
Mr. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Baker,
No.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
Yes, as conditioned by staff, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, motion fails. All right, thank y'all for coming down today. We got one more case. If y'all be kind of quiet when you leave or talk when you get outside, I'd appreciate it. Mr. Penzis, can you call our last case?
Item number 10, BOA 2024-69, located at 4615 Quince Road.
Okay, perfect. If we could, is the applicant here? Okay. And then opposition? We got one. Okay. All right, if we can get a staff report.
Good afternoon. This is Masano Stadnia with DPD. This is a case BOA 2024-0069. The applicant is Kenshin, and the location is 4615 Queens Road, and the variance is for paragraph 4.56B2 and 4.68A2 to allow a drive-through window in a parking lot with no additional landscaping. You can see the location map and also the vicinity map and the zoning map. I need to mention that this case has been governed by the Cape Cod Shopping Center General Plan that allows uses permitted in the commercial mixed-use 2 district with certain restrictions. Also, on the other map, you can see the land uses, mostly filled with commercial and also single-family use. Here are a few pictures of the site. This place has been previously a bank with a drive-through. It was Regions Bank. And you can see the plot plan here. And also this is the landscape plan. And here is the site plan with the details on it. And this is our proposed site plan. We would need to make a few changes by the drive-through window where the order needs to be picked up. And also, if you can see those highlighted areas, we would like them to be converted to landscape islands with trees. And to conclude this, this has been an existing structure from 1980s, which has been used as a drive-through bank with a drive-through lane and window. The subject property is currently vacant and the applicant is requesting to convert the existing building to a drive-through restaurant. The applicant has applied for a special use permit to allow a drive-through restaurant, which is case number SUP 2024-017. However, the drive-through windows and lanes must be designed to adhere to the following standards of paragraph 4.6.882, which means that the drive-through windows and lanes placed between the right-of-the-way and the associated building require landscaped planting installed and maintained along the entire length of the drive-through lane, located between the drive-through lane and the adjacent right-of-the-way, not including the alley. Since the applicant intends to make the drive-through lane loop around the building and provide no landscaping between the drive-through lane and the street, they were required to file this variance. Additionally, by the nature of the drive-through lane looping around the building, it conflicts with paragraph 4.5.6b2, as the queuing spaces impede traffic movements in the other vehicular use areas. The former bank operation at this site followed a typical bank drive-through model where the order window and pickup window are in the same location. However, drive-through restaurants follow a typical model where the order window and the pickup window are in separate locations. The applicant's site plan shows that without altering the existing structure to relocate the pickup window, that customers entering from Queens Road will have to drive around the building twice, once upon entering to the site and ordering, and once to pick up their order and leave, which makes unnecessary doubles the amount of pedestrian and vehicle conflicts between the parking aisle on the east of the site that have to cross the drive-through lane in order to enter the building. This applicant's proposed drive-through layout is overly complex and inefficient, causes the need for the requested variance, and wholly unnecessary. The DPD site plan proposal, which I showed, is a typical restaurant drive-through operation, and it is being accommodated using the existing site plan and also the building, with the order window being located on the west side and the pickup window on the east side of the building. Removing the need for customers to drive around the building twice and eliminating the need for the variance requested. The downside to the DPD site plan proposal is it would be cost more money to alter the existing building to accommodate this typical drive-through restaurant setup, as more work would need to be done to the existing structure, such as relocating the pickup window location. However, monetary saving to the applicant is not a reason to approve the requested variance. Rather, this is an expressly prohibited reason, as variance criteria 922-6A6 that states the variance is not granted simply because by granting the variance, the property could be utilized more profitably, or that the applicant would save money. Further, the proposal, a doubling of pedestrian and vehicle conflicts by making vehicle drive around the building twice, as I mentioned, once to order the food and once to pick it up, which might cause substantial detriment to the neighborhood and general welfare. And the granting of this variance will cause substantial detriment to the public good, and it is with conflict with the UDC. As a conclusion, the staff is rejecting this case, and that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions of staff? All right, if the applicant will come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening. My name is David Baker. I'm with Fisher Arnold. The address for the record is 9180 Crestwind Hills Drive, Memphis.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Sure. Well, we appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon. Just a little bit about our justification for our request. This is an existing building with the drive-through on the western portion of the site. It is operated in this configuration since in the 1980s. And the circulation patterns are well established for this overall shopping center. One of the things with this configuration is that in one of our neighborhood meetings, some of the residents expressed concern about the microphones for the ordering being in closer proximity to their residences and actually pointing toward their residences, therefore causing some disruption from the noise. So the way our site plan is located is at the northeast portion of the site or of our building, so that it is actually facing towards Quince Road away from the residential areas. If you look at some of the examples of other drive-through type restaurants, there's a McDonald's kind of at Winchester, just east of Riverdale. There's a Dunkin' Donuts at Poplar Brookhaven Circle, where the queuing line backs up past some of the parking for its on-site customers. And so that we feel like that works well. As far as the circulation around the building, while we would love to have the volume and traffic like Chick-fil-A and so forth, they also operate in that type of a situation for some additional queuing. So we feel like that is a standard pattern and works well for the drive-through type restaurant. So having said that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. And
Questions for Mr. Baker? All right, go ahead.
You may have said this, and I might have missed it, but the staff recommendation wants to have a window on one side and a window on the other side. And so I'm just wondering, what are your objections to making those kind of changes to the building?
One, the existing pickup window is on the western side. That is where it is, has functioned with the bank and has been in place since then. And our ordering would be kind of the northeast portion of that. And that, like I said, was in part of an effort to address some of the neighbors' concerns of the speaker and microphone being closer to their property and facing to the south versus where the ordering would be closer to the Quince Road.
Okay, so you're saying that by having that window on the other side as well, that it would be more disruptive to nearby neighbors. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the actual ordering, the microphone, speakers, the ordering kiosk, menu board, and so forth, if it was placed further south on, let's say, the southeast corner instead of the northeast corner, it would be, a lot more disruptive because it would be closer to the residents. It would be aimed and, broadcasting south toward the residential area. So by where we're placing it, the very northeast portion of our building and that corner, you're ordering at that place, and so that the speakers and so forth will be.
So is, with what you're saying, so I wasn't trying to interrupt. Is it that, so the little kind of, the grayish box just up from the third tree, is that the order box?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So they would go around from the back up there, then they'd cross around the front to get to there.
Correct. And my point was with, the Dunkin' Donuts there at Poplar and Brookhaven, McDonald's and so forth, there have situations like that where you have queuing directly behind, parking for in-store and restaurant customers. And so that does happen and does function.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know you've been through this a couple of times. I'm trying to make sure I understand so I can make, kind of figure this out. So cars going through the drive-in window so your plan has one window, right?
Correct.
So they place the order, I guess through a speaker, and then they come to the window to pick it up?
That is correct.
And then they pay and pick up at the same window?
That's correct.
Okay, so cars would come in, and the window is, where again? It's on that,
If you see on the
north,
on the left side of the building,
on the left side of
there's a little bump out.
I see,
That
okay.
is the existing drive-through for where the bank teller windows were.
Right.
So yes, you would come in, go to the right of that, or looking at that, it'd be to the left of it. We have arrows shown to the rear of the building.
I see the
and
arrows.
to our drive-through order with line.
So I have another question. When a vehicle comes in and goes around the building and makes the order at the little gray box, and then it goes back around, I mean, what would keep that person from being behind people picking up before they can even get to the order box? That's what it looks like it would set up to me, but I might be missing something.
Yes, we will have signage on that that points drive-through and pickup on the column that holds up the canopy for the existing drive-through is.
But what would keep somebody, you'd come in and you drive around that west side of the building, I guess it is, and there's the pickup window, but you've got to drive through the pickup window and then go back around to the order. Or am I getting this wrong?
No, ma'am, you're driving, if you'll see to the left of that is where the loop around drive-through to place your order is.
So would a person attempting to make that loop get stuck behind people that are picking up? That's my question. Or can they go around them? Is there room?
Yes, the existing.
That's what you were talking about, the signage, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, I got it.
There's a column holding up the roof.
Okay.
And we would have.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that right at first.
This way, yes.
Okay.
But to answer your question, that drive-through lane has two widths there, so you can get around that. You can. Yes, ma'am.
And you mentioned, Ms. Baker, I think having two windows, but I think on the staff's picture, there was kind of right where the existing drive-through is around there, they drew just a menu board, I guess the window, according to staff, would go away.
Okay, I thought I saw two windows, but
Yeah,
I might
see,
be wrong.
They pulled it up now where it says menu board. Not that they couldn't have a window, but that's just on the staff thing, that's what they had.
So they would just have an order, but you'd have to have a window to order it, wouldn't you?
You order through the speaker.
And,
Yeah, just-
okay,
Speaker and menu board.
okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. Shows how much I go to fast food restaurants.
Any other questions for Mr. Baker? I was looking just real quick at the plat, because to get around that, you kind of have to go off the site, but it requires, the plat requires internal circulation among the whole shopping center, so that wouldn't be the worst thing to ever happen. Okay, how much time did we have left?
8 minutes.
8 minutes. You got a lot of rebuttal time once we get to that.
Thank you.
We're going to move to the opposition. I have something from Mr. Parrish. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. How
Good.
are you?
I'm doing great. If you'll give your name and address for the record for me.
Sure may. Steve Parrish. I live at 4610 Dunn, the property immediately behind, along with my neighbors, immediately behind the proposed drive-through.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Sure, thank you very much. Gosh, I'm confused looking at the diagram. I can't wait to see what cars do with that sign going around there. We do have objections. Obviously, the proportions there are a bit misleading. We're talking about a difference of probably 60 feet between my backyard and where your little arrows are. That's close. That's close. There is a drainage ditch between the two pieces of property, and it's pretty open. I can throw footballs back and forth through there. We're close there. Our concern is with noise, for one thing. The speakers are an issue. That's not the major issue. One of the major, although we will be able to hear them, one of the major issues is going to be the loud cars going around and around, it appears, in circles to pick up and order the food. The loud booming basses that you hear, our den window is right across from that, rattles the windows, the stereos coming from that, the loud mufflers. The noise is simply the invasion of our lives, obviously because of the noise and the constant flow of traffic. Radical difference between this and the bank. You can sum it up with two things: bankers' hours, bankers, and traffic flow. Very different from what is being proposed here, and that was not a major issue at all. That is a huge problem. Even these days, when people like their phone conversations to be heard by their neighbors around them, that too will be very audible to those of us who are right behind. And so that constant flow, and another issue you can mention is that especially in the wintertime, as leaves have fallen from trees, the headlights that come through in the dark hours will shine directly into my den. Even though there is a fence, a wooden fence, right part of my backyard, still will go through into our den. It's a total disruption. Our families, if we want to do anything in the outside backyard with guests, it's just a major radical disruption that has this kind of traffic flow going through them. The whole notion of a restaurant period is problematic with all that goes along with that. The dumpsters that will probably be behind too. I'm not real clear where they will be to put the refuse, the smells and the odors associated with that, the rodents that are attracted by all of that. The whole thing is a real problem for this particular location. There are other things that I could mention. I assume that you got more people going through there, more visibility for other people, increased chances for crime. There's a McDonald's about 600 feet diagonally across from that. We really don't need a restaurant of this sort there. If you read the papers about 5 weeks ago, there was a carjacking there. Don't want it in our backyard. All of this opens up those kinds of doors for those types of problems that we just simply had rather not have to deal with. So I could go on. I've noted all of this in the letters to perhaps some of you before, so you're getting kind of a repeat here. If there are any kinds of questions to that or anything that I should say, I can answer that if you would like to ask. I could mention too what we fear will be a reduction in property values with this nuisance right next door. I mean, it is close. Looking at you guys right across here, that's about how close my backyard is from where some of those cars are going to be moving. So it's not as clear cut as it appears on the map there for information.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Parrish?
No.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here to speak in opposition? All right, we'll go back to our applicant for rebuttal.
Sure,
I'm going to ask a quick question, not of you, but so they've applied for a special use permit, correct? But we're just talking about landscaping and which side of the building, or are we saying special use permit's a different application than this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we might decide whatever we decide, and they still might not be able to do a drive-through there.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you, sir. All right, go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Okay, yes, just briefly. In looking at a couple of the comments, along the rear property line, there's a 30-foot drain easement. There's a chain link fence on either side. Excuse me, and then wooden fence on his property, but we are proposing a 6-foot tall site-proof wooden fence on our side, as well as additional landscaping, evergreen, to provide an additional buffer to offset and mitigate some of the lights and so forth that would be shining into their residences. So we've taken into consideration that, as well as if we look at the dumpster, they said that the trash pickup is 2 times a week, and said typically at their other restaurants, they typically have about a bag trash that is food product. The rest is napkins, cups, and things like that. So it's minimal for the food waste. And like I said, there's regularly scheduled pickup for the trash for their dumpster.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Baker?
Do you know the operations of the time that the business will operate?
Yes, ma'am. The employees will be getting there about 10:30 in the morning to open up for the lunch, and then 9 o'clock, if I remember correctly, maybe 10, but it's no later than that. Yes, ma'am.
Close at what time?
Either 9 or 10, but it's not in.
At night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. And so on the landscape, I think the real issue here is that there's no additional landscaping being put in. Can you tell us why? Because if you just put the landscaping there, then you wouldn't have to come here and get our approval. So why are you not putting landscaping in?
One, we are adding landscaping to the rear as a buffer between that. But the way the site is configured along Quince Road, it is the little landscape grass strip between the curb and the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk, and then from there back, even on the remainder of the shopping center, there's not a landscape buffer plate along Quince Road. So it is established like that. There is an island for a bank kiosk that we have proposed some landscaping within that. It could do some additional landscaping for lower shrubs and so forth to help offset that. But the current conditions do not allow any type of streetscape landscaping because there's no grass strip in that area. Do like the suggestion from staff to create islands where those yellow lines are, would be amenable to doing that. Yes, sir. But to answer your question, there's not a plate or a landscape area set up in front of that whole shop center.
Okay, and then I just want to give you a chance to respond to one other question, one other thing I'm thinking. It's the plan that you have for cars to come in and go all the way around the building a time and a half or twice, really, seems a little, odd to me. It just looks like it's poorly engineered. And as a customer, I might decide, well, I want to go through all that. I'll go to the next restaurant, some other restaurant up the street. I won't go to Perkins just to avoid that. Can you talk about, and we've talked about it from, I guess, from the construction of the building now, from that perspective, where the window is now, talked about it from the perspective of the neighbors, but just address it from the perspective of a customer. And have you thought about the impact that will have on customers?
Yes, sir. That's what we talked about, adding that signage. But if you look at this site plan, as you come in, you would take a right, go to the drive aisle where our parking is, the 4 spaces in front, then take a left, and then you would see the dividing sign for pickup, drive-through, and just make the loop around the building. Don't think that it would be that disruptive, and especially as you have repeat customers, which they do have a high volume of that. That is the thought process of that. And that's kind of how the circulation pattern has worked within the shopping center since it was constructed, since the bank portion was added in the early 80s.
Okay, thank you.
I just got one point to make. It's not really a question. It's really to the people that were objecting. This is in the CMU too, right? So a drive-through restaurant is about right use. I mean, with the exception of the green space that he thinks, but the drive-through restaurant is about use. So those objections that you had they will still be there, even if he wasn't coming to us for the variance you mentioned the loud noise, you mentioned the smell, you mentioned the trash and all those things. Well, I don't think we can do anything about a drive-through restaurant in general. So that's just a point of something to think about, I think.
Hold on, but don't they have a special use permit to get a drive-through?
Yes.
Like, they don't have the permit yet, so.
The special use permit, so because the variance is required, this must be approved first.
But yeah, they don't necessarily, even if you say, yes, you can do this, they can't do a drive-through until they get the special use permit.
So that's not a by right?
The restaurant is, but not a drive-through.
So a restaurant with a drive-through is not by right. A bank with a drive-through was by right.
Okay,
And this used to be a bank.
I must have read it wrong. Okay.
That
Must be a recent amendment, because I'm looking at
That's what I was
October 2023, and it shows drive-through restaurant permitted use in CMU 2.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at as well. That's hence the reason.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yes. Has the driving
Right there.
by right use.
Across, yeah, this cursor's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just whether or not it's been changed since then.
Yeah. There's been a few amendments, so that's what I didn't know if that was.
Exactly.
David, do you remember, was it an outline plan condition of the?
I do not remember if it was the condition of the overall shopping center. But regardless, we would still have to get the variance for the landscaping within the front yard between the drive-through and the.
While they're doing that, can I ask a question?
Absolutely, please.
So if we vote no on this, then and tell me if I'm wrong, but if we vote no on this, you can't have a drive-through at all. Maybe it would be better to, I'm just wondering, would you be willing to modify your drive-through to fit the staff's proposal or something similar to it, as opposed to not having a drive-through at all? Is that a possibility? Or would you be open to that?
And correct me if I'm wrong, the special use process goes through the Land Use Control Board. The aspect that we're discussing tonight was
the landscaping.
The requirement to have a landscape screen if there is a drive-through facing the primary street.
Okay.
I'm looking at the zoning map in the report, and it's actually zoned CMU 1, and that does require a special use permit. I think that's the answer.
Is that what it is?
I think that is the answer. It's CMU 1.
It was not really CMU.
The front of the property is CMU 2. The front along Seow is CMU 2. But then the subject property and the interior in general, if I'm looking at this right, is CMU 1, which does require a special use permit. Pretty sure that's right. It was probably just a typo, it being called, yeah, it requires a special use permit in CMU 1.
Okay, so that's just.
Typo.
And I was saying all that just to let them know that your objections wouldn't really be, we couldn't solve those.
Overall.
Yeah, it could be, yeah, exactly. So
can't stop a restaurant.
That's probably not what David's here to.
Yeah, whether or not it's on one side or the other wouldn't alleviate his objections.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Point of information, we have went to the final plat, and it is a restaurant with a drive-through window is a restricted use. So that is why I guess they filed the SUP.
Where is that? Where are you?
It's in the.
Okay.
This is in the Cape Cod Shopping Center General Plan, which does allow uses permitted in the CP district, which converts to the CMU2 district in today's code, the UDC. However, it does say the following uses shall not be permitted, and one of those uses is a a restaurant with drive-in window, drive-through window, as we would say today.
Gotcha.
Since it's on the plat, would that be both a public and private restriction? Could it is just a like, I know that the way it's written, it probably.
Not restrictive covenants. This
Gotcha.
is
Okay, perfect.
enforceable
Thank
land.
you. Okay. So a neighbor in that, someone in the plan, it could not necessarily, is not the person to enforce that. It's only a zoning type issue.
Right.
Okay,
They
thank
would
you.
attend the public hearing for the special use
Sure.
permit.
Okay.
Okay. But that doesn't solve the question of the landscape, obviously. Right. Okay.
All right, any other questions before we discuss?
Like I said, we'd be glad to add some additional landscaping where we show the 3 trees in the island where the bank kiosk is.
Okay, could go ahead. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, I'd like to see if we get a motion to approve 2024-69.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I got a quick question for staff. So I see where on the staff's version of the site plan, the yellow parts is added landscaping, correct?
Yes.
And then was there any other landscaping y'all wanted added near the street, or is that really all y'all wanted them to do? We have that little island, that little triangle. Is that already sod or something now?
I believe the yellow triangle areas are just striped on the ground, or even if they're not striped, they're proposed to be striped. It is just pavement right now.
Oh, I'm talking, the one, just so you know, the one I'm talking about is the closer to the street would be further west of what's in yellow. It's, a piece of that little parking pad looking thing.
It is, it's grass, and then there is a bank
So in front of the
kiosk
building.
there.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So, yes, we proposed 3 trees in that.
I'm sorry, we're in discussion. Yeah, that's okay. I know
Sorry,
you
got
yeah.
carried, caught up in the moment.
Yeah. It gets exciting. People can't stop.
Google Street View shows that it is grass.
Okay. But are y'all requiring, under the normal code, do we have to do something more than that?
If this were developed under today's standards, there should be at least a tree in all of the islands.
Okay. But we're not having to put shrubs along the street necessarily or anything like that under current code. Does that?
The current code would require a different streetscape. I'm guessing the problem is here. Right now, there's probably a grass strip, then sidewalk, and then it looks like this is probably an access easement area because it crosses the shopping center,
It is for sure.
if I had to guess.
Okay. Other thoughts of the board?
So for the staff, the main thing you want, or the main thing you'd like to see is, in the yellow areas, you'd like to have some shrubbery, some landscaping there, and the location of the window, the location of the window on the buildings, on the building. Those are the 2 things that you want, or is there anything else?
So
2 things that you're recommending.
if you go with what staff wants, you just reject the case, and that way, without doing the landscaping that I guess they cannot physically do because of how it is set up, they would essentially be forced to do something similar to what staff has proposed here regarding the menu board and pickup window location, because that's the only way, I guess, the drive-through lane would not cross between the front facade of the building and the street.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion?
Well, At some point, we're going to need clarification on what we're voting on.
So what we're voting on is basically what we're voting on today.
You needed that too.
What is a yay in this one?
A yes vote would be voting to allow kind of the full circumnavigation of the building being allowed. That'd be a variance, and then not. And basically the site, we'd be approving the site plan they presented. A no vote would be, we didn't approve anything and they need to make it go around the building kind of the normal way. The normal American way, I guess you'd call it.
So that would mean they'd have to put in the menu board on the other side.
Mm-hmm. They gotta put a menu board anyway, but yeah, they'd have to get rid of a drive-through on one side, throw it to the other side of the building. All right, any thoughts before we vote?
But a yes, just to be clear, a yes vote is voting on what we see on the screen.
No, a yes vote votes on what they had on the screen, which is the full circumnavigation of the building.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a yes vote, that plan right there. Yes.
Yeah. A no vote means they're just under code and they can go get their SUP, but it's gonna have to, circulate the normal way. It's not necessarily this, it's just whatever code allows. Okay. Any comments, thoughts? All right, I think
I have one point of information.
Yeah.
Who made the motion and who seconded? I missed that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, if you'll give us a roll call, please.
Ms. Baker.
I knew you'd call on me for it.
I'm just hoping it wasn't me.
Yes.
Mr. Bruce.
No.
Mr. Campbell.
Let me see. I'm just making sure making sure I got my mind right. Okay. So that would be the yes.
Yes vote would be yes, essentially for this plan, the applicant's plan.
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, motion fails. All right, thank you for coming down. Do we have any announcements?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Mr. Phil, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Falk and I have a question, Your Honor, about Your Honor's ruling on our matter.
Sure.
I distinctly heard you say the motion passed.
The motion, if I did, the motion failed by vote.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that staff corrected that for us and told us that it